And people look at the stuff that I post online, right? Usually around functional movement or sometimes around obstacles, and people are amazed that a person with Parkinson's can move like that. But really, what you're seeing the 15 to 30 seconds out of my day that
Mm.
I'm moving well.
But Jimmy, thank you,
Oh yeah, that's
thank you so much for accepting my my request, man. It's always nice to reach out to ninjas I haven't met or I haven't dealt with before, and it's nice to connect in this way. I find it's a good way for me to make new friends as well as helping people with their ninja.
ab- ab- absolutely, man. I love it. I mean, and thanks for having me on. It's cool. I always like meeting new people as well, and then having a chance to just sit down, have a conversation. It's it's a part of this world now, right? With COVID, Zoom, this is how we meet people. This is how we interact nowadays.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, I was in Chicago earlier this year. I went rock climbing. I caught up with Tyler Yamauchi, he picked me up from the airport, and ended up going climbing with Jess and Ethan, Chris, and
Wow.
Michael, which was an epic experience. Do you see do you
Yeah, no,
do you,
it's a great.
no, go on, sorry, I'll let you finish.
Yeah, they're a great crew. Yeah, no, that I was just gonna say they're a great crew because I coach at the same gym as Jesse and Chris. I see Michael runs his own gym now. Same franchise, runs the same gym at a different location. So yeah, I mean, I see these guys all the time. I get to train with them, or I get to hang out with them. They train on their own level, right? And and then there's guys like me.
Watching them climb, I felt like I was just in awe. Like they are so strong, and they're doing whatever they're doing, V8s and sevens and nines, and I'm like I'm struggling on a V4 right now. It's like it was quite embarrassing, but that's all. Right. I didn't mind. It was it was awesome watching them how they worked and how they trained, and it was absolutely awesome. But Jimmy,
Yeah,
so tell me, I mean, I've been doing some reading, man. I mean, obviously, I've watched you over the last few years, and your story is incredible. But maybe for people who don't know, who are listening, tell me a bit about yourself and sort of what led you. I guess obviously with everything with Parkinson's and sort of what led you to the to ninja. What's your story?
yeah. Well, you kind of alluded to it for those who don't know already. I live with Parkinson's. I've actually been living with it now for 18 years. I was diagnosed when
Wow.
I was very young. I was only 27 years old when I was diagnosed. Um, and back then there wasn't a lot of resources for people with Parkinson's as young as I was, right? Because when someone think of Parkinson's, they always think of someone that's much older. Usually onset is in their 60s or later in life, and only about 10% of people with Parkinson's are diagnosed before the age of 40.
Wow.
Um, so I had no idea what to do when I was given a diagnosis, and I did pretty much what any 20-something-year-old would do at the time, which was just ignore it, right? Just forget forget that I was given a diagnosis and just try to live life the way I had planned.
Mm.
But unfortunately, as I learned to find out that Parkinson's is a progressive disease, it gets worse and worse, and there is no cure for it. So for that first 8 years, I actually just lived in complete denial. I did absolutely nothing, um, and I just let the disease take over. And what really bothered me was once I really found out that I had something that I could really do about it. Um, I realized that I wasted my first 8 years of diagnosis. I've become so inactive. I have become so angry and depressed, and I was not doing my family a service at all. In fact, I was becoming a burden to them. I was becoming a safety hazard just playing with my kids. They were very young, um, and I fell down the stairs holding my son, and really that was the trigger that got me to really want to get up and get moving. And I was inactive, and I was up to 240 pounds.
Wow.
Um, and I couldn't walk because I kept falling over from balance issues, and I had to use a cane to walk. Um, but then when I took that fall down the stairs with my son, he was only 10 months old at the time, and my wife and my daughter witnessed the whole thing, and just the look on their faces was enough to kind of jolt me into action. I decided then that I'm I'm not smart enough to find a cure, right? I certainly didn't have the means to fund the cure myself.
Mm.
So I went ahead and did the next best thing, which was participate in clinical trials. I gave up my body for science. And I mentioned anger and depression. To be honest, giving up my body for science, if it was really more of a selfish intention there, because if the cure was going to be found, I was going to be the first to get it, right?
Mm.
And if for some reason the treatment that I'm taking turned out to be a complete disaster and it takes my life, it wouldn't have been such a bad thing at the time, So that was kind of the thought process. Again, very selfish. But as I went through the process of getting involved in clinical trials, I really started learning about Parkinson's. And one of the things that I noticed about every single participation in trials was that there's always a physical component to it. Are you exercising? What kind of exercises do you do? And they do forced physical therapy. And it was through that connection that I started really to become more active. I found that after physical therapy sessions, I would feel better. So I started doing some of that stuff at home, physical therapy, movements, really functional movement at home. And then I started walking, spending more time with my family. And that really started my fitness journey. And that was towards the end of 2011.
Wow.
And again, I was 240 pounds. And then I started walking around the block, and then with my cane. And then when I got comfortable, I left the cane at home and I walked as far as I could. Every day I just try to do a little bit more. The next day I do, 2 blocks, two times around the block. And then the next day I'll try to do 3, right? Just a little bit more each day just to see if I can get better.
Mm.
And then next thing you know, I started jogging, and then I started running.
Wow.
And the more I did, the better I felt. I was starting to gain control of my own diagnosis. I was understanding what my body's going through, and I was understanding things that I'm capable of and things that I need to be cautious about. And really that opened the door to even more movement, cycling, swimming. And next thing you know, I was doing triathlons and I was running marathons. I was riding 100-mile bike rides, just fast forward all the way into 2017, which was my first time on American Ninja Warrior. Up until that point, my daughter was just in love with the show. And every year, for like 3 years before, she would say, "Daddy, you should try out. Daddy, you should try out. I mean, you're fit. You can run marathons. You can do this." But I lost a lot of weight at that point. I was down to 155 pounds.
Wow.
I lost 85 pounds, but 155 pounds frame for a runner isn't, with no upper body strength, isn't exactly ninja material, right?
Mm.
So, but she bugged me every year. She was persistent. Every year when the show debuted, and she would, "Daddy, you got to get on. You got to get on." And then finally, in 2017, I'm like tired of her asking. I'm like, "Look, they're not gonna pick me. They're not gonna pick me." So I just went ahead and I applied. And she trains. My daughter, if you didn't know, she competed on American Ninja Warrior Junior the first season.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But for those of you who haven't seen her, go Google her run. It was actually one of the most watched runs on that show.
Awesome. I'll make sure I link it.
Yeah, go check it out. But she's been training way before I have been, and she just loves Ninja Warrior and obstacle course. And so she convinced me, and she really pushed me and really motivated me to give it a try the very first year in 2017. And then ever since that, I've been on, every year they've given me a chance to run the course every year. I'm very grateful for the opportunity. Not only has it brought attention to Parkinson's, on a national level and international level as well, We've really generated a lot of awareness. We've generated a lot of, we raised a lot of money for research. My wife and I have raised well over $500,000
Wow.
for Parkinson's research. And but the biggest gift of all is that learning how to move my body on obstacles, learning how to move my own body weight around, really helped me combat Parkinson's, because the goal is not to excuse me, not to lose too much of my ability to move, and really getting to know and learn how my body moves have really put me ahead of that curve. So that's probably the biggest, the biggest gain I've gotten out of it. Of course, from all the friends that I've been able to meet, this community has been just simply amazing. We mentioned getting to train with guys like Jesse and Chris and Swanson and Torres and Kyle Schulze, who is actually, he actually helped me the very first year I got on the show.
Wow.
And just being able to train with these guys, and the fact that the community has also accepted me, and they all have pitched in out of that $500,000 we've raised. I mean, they have a huge hand in all of that, and I couldn't be more grateful.
Wow, that's amazing. So leading up to your first season, did you start training? Like, or was it a complete surprise that you got on and you're like, oh, I better start or try to do some pull-ups?
No, when my daughter dared me to apply, I'm a competitive guy, right? So I didn't want to look like a complete idiot. So even as I was creating my submission video, I started doing some training then, and it has to, mostly, like you mentioned, like pull-ups and things like that, swinging on rings, something just a very, very elementary and beginner things. But I quickly learned that I was building strength quickly. Technique became a little harder because of the way my brain works with Parkinson's, and just the way that my body moves. The technique became difficult. But I quickly realized that I could be strong. This is something that I can do. Grip strength was going to be a problem with Parkinson's, but I found a way around it. I found different ways of doing things so that my body can work. So, going into the season, really, to be honest, I had about 3 to 4 months of training before I went into my rookie year.
That's good though. That's good though. I think a lot of people who go into the rookie years, they kind of wait. At least I can't speak for the US, but I think in Australia, we get all the new wave of people who want to be on, and they don't really start training until they find out that they're on, and it's like that's you gotta think that you're already on, even if you don't get on. You have to think in your mind so that you can actually start training, for it. So
absolutely.
no, I'm glad. I'm glad you didn't make that mistake. Well, so what was that like for you? Because I know at that point you'd done, all sorts of marathons and so many like grueling physical activities. How did you feel leading up to your run? Like, were you extremely nervous? Were you feeling good? How was that experience for you compared to other?
Yeah, it was terrifying, to be honest. I'd never been on an obstacle course, right? I was prior to that. I didn't compete even on local competitions prior to that, right? So there was my daughter, in case you didn't see, just stuck by. But I'd never competed before. Running marathons, you're in a starting line with like 6,000 other people, right? So it's not. It's a completely different feel. But really stepping up on that line and for the first time looking down the lane of obstacles, right? Seeing how high they get and seeing the pool of water is real. Now it was terrifying, but at the same time though, it's a scary. I always like to say that it's the scariest thing that I've ever done, and it's also the most exciting thing I've ever done. So it's a good mixed bag of emotions, just everything you need coming up to the start line.
Oh, absolutely. And I think especially the excitement bit, I think for season one for me in my rookie year was that blend of this is really exciting, but I'm nervous. And I think that is, if you're in that position, that's the best place to be, I think, mentally, because you're on edge enough to be sort of, I guess wired, but maybe not too nervous where you have to let that excitement sort of take over just a little bit, just so that you don't, you're not absolutely, too terrified. Um,
Right.
but man, so how you have to educate me because I don't know a lot about Parkinson's, but I have a friend here. He's a competitor in Australia, and he has Tourette's.
Hmm.
So he has certain tics that he has, but he has said that he has learned, or he finds that when he is on the course, he all his tremors or his tics sort of go away because he says through intense focus he's
Hmm.
able to sort of I don't know, I guess his body just sort of changes. When you're on the course, are you aware of I guess your of the Parkinson's, or are you in the moment? How does that work for you?
Yeah, no, Parkinson's never really goes away, and I am very aware of my symptoms. And people only see Parkinson's to most people is people see the some of the slowness of movement, the rigidity, and they of course see the tremors, right? But it's not just that. It really is anything that has to do with brain and muscle connection is affected. Um, so I'm always aware of Parkinson's, even when I'm on an obstacle. Now the tremors, once I engage, the tremors are called resting tremors, which means when your muscles aren't engaged and your body is at rest, then the tremors are worse. But once I pick up a weight, once I squeeze my muscles, once I grab a bar or a hold or whatever it is, um, the visual side of the tremor looks like it's gone away, but it's still happening on the inside, right? I can still feel it.
Mm.
Um, but really, the biggest problem is that whole muscle to brain connection. And what that means is, moves that every other ninja can just about make, connecting laches, for example, linking laches and going from changing direction from one obstacle to the other, or uh, things like multi-move obstacles that require thinking or precision. Those come naturally based on body movement. For me, I have to essentially pre-program all of those moves before I get up there and do it.
Mm.
And and then once I get up there and do it, if my muscles miss any of those signals, I have to stop and reset
Wow.
and do it all over again. So that's a problem. And it became, my rookie season, it was Kansas City, and I went out on a balance obstacle, which took out, I think, more than half the field anyway. So I can't blame Parkinson's for that, right? Um, but my second season in Indianapolis, you can clearly see where it was on the wheel flip. I made the moves after the first two wheels, and then the third wheel, I had given myself an instruction to release and grab the third wheel, but my hands didn't release, and now all of a sudden my body goes into the circle swinging
Wow.
motion, right? So now I've got to, and then if you watch the entire run and the clip, I actually waited for myself to stop moving because I'm resetting everything in my brain, and then you can see me starting from square one, rebuilding that swing and trying to make that last move. And by the time that happened, I'm pumped, right? Because I've been on that obstacle for quite a while.
Yeah.
Um, but that's really my biggest battle. Since my second and third seasons, and I've been doing more and more competitions, and really trying to string more obstacles together at the gym. And it's always the same problem. It's always about efficiency. It's always about not getting hung up on an obstacle and just really wasting all my energy.
Yeah. Um, is it? I guess obviously because different. Every course is different. Uh, is
Yeah.
is there is there like a general what's the word I'm looking for? The, I guess after a certain period of time, is it consistent that you then find that you have these moment lapse, or is it just random? Like, for example, could you have days where you might be able to complete multiple, like, finish a course, and then you might have days
Mhm.
where you can't get past the first few, or is do you find that there's a consistent time? I'm not too sure.
Yeah, no,
If I
there isn't
worded that
consist.
properly.
No, you did. I think I know exactly what you're asking, and that's a great question because there is no consistency to Parkinson's. It comes and goes pretty much as it likes. The with a well planned medication plan, I could make it more predictable, but still at any time symptoms can arise, and we call these on and off periods. On meaning when your body is working, off meaning when your body is not working at all, and they fluctuate. When your body hits a off period, a lot of times it snowballs and it just gets worse and worse, and until you can find the right combination of movement or medication or anything, right? Yeah, yoga or just mental preparedness to get yourself out of that funk and then to get yourself back on track, so to speak. But by that time it's happened. When you're already in the off, you're already behind the eight ball. So so that means you're playing catch up with everything else. And then by the time everything catches up, now there's a chance of you being over medicated or over stimulated with movement. And then you enter this new phase of being in a dopamine surplus, right? So Parkinson's means, one of the biggest thing is that my brain doesn't produce dopamine. So now when I'm trying to play catch up, all of a sudden I put myself into this chance to be over surplus on the dopamine. And then when that happens, different types of symptoms appear. Like the tremors is one thing, but there's this other symptom called dyskinesia and dystonia. And when these things happen, it's really disruptive. Dyskinesia is over when there's too much dopamine in the system and your body just moves anywhere that it wants, and it's bigger movement than a tremor. It's more like a rhythmic swaying motion. And stress also makes that worse. And then, so when that happens, now you're over medicated or your body has too much dopamine. And then now you've got to slow it down. And then, so you've got these two curves that you're trying to match, right?
Wow.
And it's really hard to have the two together. And on days where I actually can put those two lines together, then those are the really good days. Those are the days that I've run my fastest marathon. Those are the days that, I've broken 2 world records this year. And those are the days that, I was able to do that. But I have yet to be able to put those two lines together yet on a Ninja Warrior course to my satisfaction. So
that's fair. That's fair. You gotta get that buzzer, man.
Oh yeah. It's I've been chasing it for 4 years now and still chasing.
I have no doubt it's gonna happen. So those kind of days, as you said, you can't control, but you reckon through careful medication, you can potentially align those two much better. But it's still quite hard, I guess, to consistently be able to pull that off, I guess.
Yeah, and people look at the stuff that I post online, right? Usually around functional movement or sometimes around obstacles, and people are amazed that a person with Parkinson's can move like that. But really what you're seeing is the 15 to 30 seconds out of my day that I'm moving well. What they're not seeing, and I have also shared moments where things aren't great online as well, but what they're not seeing is that probably closer to 40 to 60% of my day, my body is non-cooperative. There are times where there's just so much fatigue. I'm completely knocked out. I can't move, and I'm sitting on my couch, or I've got to go lie down in a bed, and I can't move for 3 hours.
Wow.
People don't see that. All they see is me doing push-ups or pull-ups or whatever it is that I do online. But it's really difficult for them to understand that without actually having to see it, which is one of the reasons I share those moments as well. So people have to see that there are weak moments as well.
100%. You mentioned before grip might be a problem, but you had ways of overcoming it. What are your strategies that you've implemented that have helped your grip?
So it's kind of counterintuitive actually to what ninjas know. I compensate for my grip using a lot of my shoulders to compensate, using bigger muscle groups to compensate, and really to find, open hand grip is one of the harder things for me to compensate, just because the open hand grip, the way your hand position is, it's really hard to shift your body to be able to compensate using other muscle groups, for example. But vertical grip wise, I'm able to turn the grip more towards my body, which then uses more biceps instead of forearms. Just different techniques like that. But at the same time, it makes it harder for me to let go of said hold. If you watch, I share these things. I share my whole process online. But if you watch, National Ninja League competitions or UNX competitions that I've been a part of, when it comes to, say, cannonballs or nunchucks, where we're traversing from one to the other, or even cliffhangers, it's just the way that my body is positioned. It makes it hard for me to transition from one hold to the other, and I actually hang on for an extra swing. So what should only take 8 to 10 swings or 8 to 10 moves to get across an obstacle, I would take anywhere between 14 to 16 moves to get through the same obstacle.
Wow.
So it's a lot of it's about compensation. When I try to build swing, I actually use a lot. I don't use my legs a lot. When I build swing, I actually use a lot in my shoulders. Again, we deal with the fatigue, the pumping, and we deal with just inefficiencies there in the way that I am on a course, right?
Yeah, no, it's fascinating, and I think I guess we're all so different. So no matter what, I mean, even for myself, I'm shorter than the average person, so just having to come up with slightly different things to do, just to overcome the reach. So it might not be as efficient as someone who's bigger, like Jody Villa, but with the afro, I just completely had a big mental blank.
Big John Alexis.
Yeah, John. I'm like, man, I met the dude. How do I, there's certain things that they're just going to be able to do that's just easier than everyone. So it's just about finding those ways, and obviously, for you particularly, you have to find another way to get through that obstacle, even if it takes you longer. Do you train? Are you able to train dead hangs? Like, do you actively try and build up just like a standing grip strength just to help build up?
I try my best. The days that I train obstacle, we also have to be honest here and say and just look at one thing that I can't outrun, and that's age, right? I'm one of the older people on that compete on the show still. I'm 45.
Wow.
And just the muscle fatigue and the joint fatigue and all that stuff. So I can only really train on obstacles maybe 1 or 2 days a week because I just need time to recover. But in between that time, I'm doing a lot of functional fitness, right? Which includes pull-ups and chin-ups and dead hangs and things like that to help maintain grip and maintain my muscles to be able to do what I need them to do, on an obstacle course. So yeah, I mean, farmers carries, these are grip related training that I do, dead hangs, of course. And then, we always mix in, even with functional training, we mix in light obstacle work, swinging, bars, rings, wing nuts, just whatever fun thing we can find in the gym to add into our circuit.
Oh, that's awesome. What was I going to say? What obstacle have you found, I guess, the trickiest? Is there a specific obstacle that you find particularly tricky compared to others?
Yeah, it's any and all of the balance obstacles. You know,
course.
especially the quick feet ones, right? Because remember I mentioned I have to give my muscles instructions before they do it. Like kind of like pre-program in these instructions, and if anything goes wrong, it's pretty much a reset in the brain. So quick step, quick bound type obstacles are definitely a problem. And then even the slower obstacles, you know, where I have time for my muscles to react, but at the same time I'm spending so much time on those that it hurts me either from a time perspective on the course, or I'm spending so much time that I I give the obstacle more time to take me out, right? Because even if a slower ninja gets through this obstacle because they had to spend 6 seconds staying balanced on one leg on let's just say a rolling log, for example, I might have to be on it for 10 seconds. That gives it 4 more seconds to take me out, right? So yeah, it really is anything balance related. It has been really tricky for me, and switching from a power obstacle, like anything laches, to a finesse obstacle like peg boards and things like that. That gives me trouble as well, because I have to change my mindset from big movement, big muscles, to fine motor muscles.
Wow.
Yeah, and that switch itself it takes some time. So that's one of the reasons I always stop in between every obstacle, even though I've done it a million times, but I always have to stop because my brain has to reset. And then when these things happen in the middle of an obstacle, right, where you're going from, let's say you're doing ring swings, and then at the end of the ring swing, you've got to go into a captain hook or a sky hook, where you're going from finesse to a power or vice versa. Again, my body stops, I reset, and I have to recalibrate and then go from there.
Wow. How long can that reset take you sometimes? Does it fluctuate?
It fluctuates, but it all happens in a matter of nothing. It doesn't last like a minute or anything like that, because by that time I would lose my grip and fall anyways.
Yeah.
Right. But by the time that I get the right thoughts and the right messaging to my muscles, or the right sequence put together to send to my muscles, I would say it's anywhere between 8 to 10 seconds. If I'm on an obstacle, it's anywhere between 8 to 10 seconds. But in between obstacles, sometimes I'll stop for 30 to 40 seconds before things click.
Yeah, wow. It's incredible. You really can't. I think a lot of people take so many things for granted, and it makes you appreciate, I guess, basic stuff a lot more. When we hear about just some of the daily stuff that you have to go through, and it's very inspirational.
One of the things that I always tell people is that they see me make moves like on a salmon ladder, or they see me run up a warped wall, right? These are things that people can do if they train, right? These are things that anybody can do if you train for it. But I have my kids help me tie my shoes sometimes. It takes me 15, 30 minutes to just get up in the morning and get my teeth brushed.
Wow.
My wife has to help me with buttons on my shirt. These are things that people don't need training with. They don't need training to be able to do. These are things that I can't do even to this day. So, what's more important, being able to lache 10 feet, or to get yourself ready, for the day, right? It's a huge trade-off.
Oh, absolutely. Jimmy, what were you like as a kid? So were you fairly active, or did you grow up playing sports? What were you like as a child?
Yeah, I was pretty active when growing up as a child. I actually you're too young to get this, but just like everything in the 70s, I was born in the 70s. Just like everything in the 70s, I was actually made in Taiwan. I was born in Taiwan. And coming here to the U.S. and when I was in the mid 1980s was a big change. But one of the things that helped me, when I came to the United States, I didn't speak much English at all. In fact, I spoke no English when I came to the U.S.
Wow.
But one of the things that helped me get acclimated to with the neighborhood kids, even though there's a language barrier, was sports. We played baseball together. We would run around and ride bikes and things of that nature. And eventually, I got into wrestling. I played football. I played baseball all through high school. I've always been. I joke nowadays that I'm the world's okayest athlete is what I like to say, because everything that I've done, I've been okay at. I'm adequate where I get playing, where I will get playing time, but I'm never the best at something.
Yeah.
Even when I'm running those marathons, right? My time is good enough to put me in the top 20, top 20%, but never in the top 1, 2, or 3, right? Same thing with ninja. Same thing with cycling. Same thing with everything that I'm always average or above average, but never. But that's kind of my upbringing. I've always been athletic, where I'm able to adapt to different types of sports and do different things, but never really the best at one thing.
Hey man, you're the burpee king. So let's.
I do have that. So,
mate. Yeah.
And until somebody breaks it, I do have that. So thank you for that. Thanks for the reminder. Sometimes I do need that.
Man. Don't you have 2 world records? Not just one.
I do.
What's the second one?
The other one is a push-up world record, and it's a lateral plyometric push-up in 1 minute, and that was done recently on the 18th of November, actually.
There you go, man. See, and you're as you said before, you're one of the older ninjas.
Yeah.
You as you said before, sometimes you struggle with brushing your teeth. Yet you have 2 world records, which means you are the number 1 in the world out of 7 billion people now in those 2 physical challenges. And
well,
who knows if anyone's going to beat you, man.
You know what? Records are made to be broken, right?
No, absolutely. So what I find, I guess, interesting is, you mentioned before about, it's not just about the tremors, there's so much more around it with, sort of depression and anxiety and there's other. How much does depression and I guess mental state can affect or progress this disease?
Oh, and so I've lived through both sides of that. Today I'm very optimistic. I'm one of the most positive people, I think, from a outlook perspective. I think, or at least I'm told, I'm one of the most positive outlook people out there. But there's a time in my life where things are just dark, and just anger and depression was every day. And unfortunately, it was during that time where my kids were young, and my wife and I were still trying to start our family, really trying to find our grooves and really find our place in life, right? But I would end up just like screaming at the kids for no reason, and just full size. Remember, I was a big dude back then, right? 230, 240 pounds, standing over a 2-year-old because she spilled some apple juice.
Wow.
Just thinking back to that and the feeling around all that, it still troubles me to this day. And I think that the past also follows me to the present. I'm optimistic because of the things I'm able to do, because I see how proud my wife is of me at the things that I'm able to accomplish. And I see my kids, the way that they see us working towards advocacy for Parkinson's research, and they're learning things about Parkinson's. They can tell you more about Parkinson's than the general public can, and they're 13 and 11 years old, right? But the past, or the depression and the darkness will always follow me, just because every once in a while, as I mentioned, at any point given the day, fatigue can just hit, and I'm just absolutely not able to move, and it will knock a person down, right? Mentally, because now what if I'm not able to get myself out of this funk? What's going to happen? So your mind starts gravitating towards that negative again, and it starts really thinking, uh, uh, thinking on the dark side, so to speak. But then it's just how 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 do I get myself out of that? And really, it's just being able to concentrate and really count my blessings, my kids, my wife, all of my friends that I've met throughout my journey in the ninja community and the running community. I mean, all that. And I know all these people watch me, and many of them have told me, just how incredible some of the things that I do are, and that I've been an inspiration to them. But I want everybody to know that inspiration is a two-way street, because I hear those comments, and whenever I am down, I think about those comments, right? So in a way, they're also inspiring me to get up, keep moving, keep pushing forward.
Wow. Oh, absolutely. And I can't remember where I heard it, but it's hard to be depressed, I guess, when you're grateful. So I guess if you always come back to that, well, what do I have? And it kind of reset, I don't know, just for me personally, kind of resets
Yeah.
your mind a bit, doesn't it? So
Yep.
that's,
And it's perfectly okay. It's perfectly okay to be pissed sometimes, right? Life isn't going to go your way. 2020 has not gone anybody's way, right? so so it's okay to be pissed. And now the question is, how do you bounce back from it? You last year on Ninja Warrior, I fell on the first obstacle, and it was a silly mistake. I can't even blame Parkinson's on that one. It was just a silly mistake, and I was so pissed, and I was so down about about it. For those who've seen the show, you guys saw Kyle and you guys saw Torres. They both came and they consoled me. But what you didn't see is that backstage, Jesse came up to me, Michael Bauer came up to me. Every competitor that was with us came up and said, you know what, it sucks. We know it happens, but Jessie actually said this to me, and it still stuck with me now. She said that it's okay to be pissed. It's okay to be mad about this situation, and because it's an opportunity on the show, you could be mad for a week, but then after that, get yourself up, get training again, and see if you can get another shot. And so here I am, still training, a year later almost.
oh, that's it, man. You spoke words that I've always thought and believed, especially for yourself. I'm sure you set a standard for yourself. And
Yeah.
I think there's nothing wrong with setting big goals. You aim for it, it doesn't work out, and then you're mad about it. Like, that's natural. To just brush off something that'd be like telling someone who's prepared for the Olympics for 4 years, they made a mistake that cost them, top 3 or whatever it might be, and then you say, "Oh, but it's okay. Don't get mad about it." It's like, no, like, and like you said, it's okay to be mad about something for a little while, just so you can get over it. But then you have to eventually move on. So I'm with you there, man. I totally get
it. It's how you deal with it. Then that makes you a bigger, a stronger person, right? What did you learn from that situation? So, yeah, and again, that's life. That's what it is.
What was the because I'm curious. So probably because we haven't met or spoken before. So I was actually casted for the original season 12. Because I'm a dual citizen. So I was in LA when they pulled the pin. What was the atmosphere and the environment like for season 12, the new version with all the parameters and with everything?
Well, I mean, it's definitely something to get used to, right? Because you're missing your friends and your family. You're missing the crowd. It's really difficult to be there unsupported, right? I mean, you're supported by your peers and your fellow competitors, but the people that I rely on every day, to drive me forward and to really provide me with motivation and determination,
Mm.
is my family, and they're not able to be there, right? Um, so I think that's, for me, that was the biggest adjustment that I had to make. Um, and then just getting out on that course, there's complete silence, and all you have are your two teammates there to cheer you on. It was great for me from a Parkinson's perspective, because then it actually reduced a lot of the stress that I normally would have, right? People screaming and not being able to hear, like, basically I have two coaches this year in season 12. You have two coaches on the sideline you can hear,
Yeah.
and they'd be able to help you out. But yeah, so that's a big adjustment difference. The lot, from a Parkinson's perspective, the stress level went down. I think that's one of the reasons why I became complacent, I think, on that first obstacle. It's just that the stress level wasn't there. Like you mentioned earlier, that stress level needs to be there for that sense of urgency. Again, I'm not blaming that. This was all on me.
Yeah. I
For
don't
the
know what you
season.
mean. Yeah.
Yeah, but it definitely was an adjustment to be made. And then just the protocols around COVID. You have to. Someone is always watching, and if anybody breaks protocol, you're out the door. So
Wow.
yeah, it was. It didn't feel like any other season, except when you were on the platform and getting ready to go. Other than that, there really definitely had to be some adjustments. But I'll tell you what, though, having it indoors, man, if they do that every year, I vote for that for sure. There was, you didn't have to worry about weather, you didn't have to worry about the time. I mean, not as you know, usually it's filmed in the middle of the night, right?
Mm.
But having it indoors and really not having to adjust to that time difference, it helped me again from a, and it's not just from a Parkinson's perspective, but I'm sure it helps everybody not to have to adjust their sleep schedule. But really from a medication timing perspective, that really helped. So I'm looking forward to it if they keep at least some of these attributes for 13.
Well, I think they were meant to be, because what were they doing? They were doing it only in 3 cities originally. So it was meant to be LA, St. Louis, and I can't remember what the third one was, but those 2 were indoors, and they were going to film two qualifiers per of those cities. So
right,
it might be a continuing trend. I was speaking with Chad Ben Udi, so Chad Flexington, and
yeah.
we were discussing in LA. It's like, because it was raining like crazy, like never
Right.
before I mean, when I visited, have seen that. And we were like, you could probably easily just put some glass or something between those buildings, or I don't know, they could probably do something to stop the rain. But I, it seems to make sense just to move everything indoors. You could probably just move everything to one city and then obviously go to Vegas or something for the finals. But I don't know.
Well, I mean, they proved that in 12, right? Everything in one city, but unfortunately, just not able to get all the competitors
Yeah.
in, right? Because in any normal season, it was previous to 12, at least from 11 and beyond. Before it was 3 to 5 cities, and hundreds of competitors in each city, right? So they're not able to do that with a single location, at least.
Yeah.
Without hogging it for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
So I'm not here to make speculations on how they're going to format next season. But I think they definitely learned something from last year, and I hope some of the positive things get brought through into season 13, and I hope they'll give me one last shot at it. If they give me one last shot, it'll be my last. So it's time to hang it up. Just like as I mentioned, I'm getting older, and I have to learn how to make adjustments, so that because I have to live in this body for an extended period of time. I can't have my joints breaking down on me.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Ninjas is a destroyer of bodies.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Might be a silly question, but I don't know. I'm curious. Do you, with Parkinson's, experience any physical pain? Is there any physical pain associated at all?
There is, not all the time, but there really is. I mentioned this symptom earlier. It's called dystonia. Have you ever had a Charlie horse?
No, I don't think so.
So it's like a calf cramp, right? Like a cramp in your calves. Have you ever had that?
Yeah. I've had that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So imagine that, except it lasts for like an hour to an
Oof.
hour and a half.
Oh God.
Um, and it can happen anywhere. People usually experience it in their calves, but for me, it's always in my neck, in my
Oh.
shoulders, in my biceps. So if you look at, people that run, know that, when you run marathons, there's all these photos that they take of you, right? I never buy any of those photos simply because I look terrible in all of them. If you look at every single one of them, my arm is locked up, my right arm is pulled into my chest,
Yeah.
my neck is pulled downwards, so my ears are right into my shoulders, and and I just look like that for the second half of any race that I get into, and that's this, and that's dystonia. Oh, and also my toes will curl under, and now I have to run an entire, the rest of the marathon, whatever, how many miles are left,
Oh
with
my
my
goodness.
toes curled underneath.
Oh.
But dystonia causes a great deal of pain. It is essentially just an extended cramp, and sometimes they last for 20 minutes, but more often than not, it's usually hours.
Wow. Oh, that's
Yeah.
horrible.
So I mean, that's really the only physical pain that I can think of, that associated with Parkinson's. There's other types of pain, and I don't want to gross people out, but actually, constipation is a symptom of Parkinson's. Just remember, anything that has to deal with movement has been slowed in people with Parkinson's. So the
Mm,
ability to move your bowels, right, is slowed as well. So that creates backup and blockage, and that of course can lead to pain if you're constipated for too long.
yeah,
Um,
of course.
and that's another type of pain. But I think that the only true physical pain it comes from the dystonia, and and any rigidity and stiffness, which is all related to the dystonia, where the muscles are tightened up, and every time you try to move them, you're fighting against your own muscles, so that causes some strain or some pain.
Yeah. And do you have a mental, what is your mental strategy when that happens in the moment? Like what goes through your brain?
Oh, well, it's another reason why I do so many burpees, right? Is because it's when something just sucks and it hurts, you have that part of your brain that you can go to, just kind of shut everything out and just deal with it. Like I said, I've run many miles with my toes under me, and that is very painful, not just from the cramp itself, but from the constant beating of your feet with your toes curled in on the ground, right? So you just got to be able to, for me anyways, I just have to be able to just tune my brain out and just go with it and just ride it out, ride it until it goes away. Um,
Yeah.
so far by experience, I know it goes away. It's just a matter of how long.
Mm, yeah. Okay. So it's so fascinating. Um, I had some questions from some people. I can't remember all of them, but I do remember one of them. From a guy named Griffin. Yeah, he does all the he does all the drawings of
Yeah, great
yeah,
kid, great kid.
yeah. He wanted to know where you got your, I think if I remember correctly, he wanted to know where you got your custom masks, and then he also wanted to know what your current push-up record is. So I think he said his is like 83, which I thought actually that's pretty good. I don't even think I can do
That
83.
that is pretty good. So as far as the masks are concerned, it's a gator, right? It's a gator, and these are the things that the Fox Foundation. I'm a patient board member on the Fox Foundation, and also a Team Fox member, which means I'm part of the fundraising group within the Fox Foundation. And this is swag that's given for events and things like that, and that's how I got that. But I talked to Griff already a little bit earlier, and I promised to send him one, and I will. Um, and then as far as push-up record, it's been a long time since I went max push-ups nonstop and see how many I can do. The last time I did it, I was in the 200s.
Wow.
But that was that was more than a year ago, and I certainly have been training more push-ups since then. But nowadays I train more for power versus endurance. So I'm more into, the plyometric stuff, how high I can get, things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a while. But it's it's putting myself through that kind of strain is less and less appealing for me nowadays.
That's incredible, man. I think I'd struggle to get 50 in a row, to be quite honest. I would already pump out by then.
Well, and then you flip that around, right? I mean, to be honest, I don't think many ninjas can do 200 in a row nonstop, but many ninjas can out hang me and out dead hang me. I think my max non-shake out dead hang is 2.5 minutes. That's it. But
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, but you've got guys that can just hold on forever, right? Jamie Ron. I mean, heck, I know he does his shakeout dead hangs are. I mean, he could just be there all day long, pretty much. But I'm pretty sure his strict dead hangs. I don't even want to guess, but it's way up there. It's 3-4 times longer than mine for sure.
It's incredible, some of these guys. Last one from me, in regards to with everything you're doing with the Michael J Foundation and the search for a cure, what is at the moment on the horizon in terms of a potential cure? Like, what are they seeing from research of late that is showing the likelihood of some sort of cure?
Yeah, so let me put it this way. Just 7 years ago, there were zero clinical trials that were classified as disease modifying.
Wow.
And what that means is, I mean, there were plenty of clinical trials out there that were for medication or for treatments that mask symptoms, right? They just mask symptoms. They don't really reverse them. So 7 years ago, there were none classified as disease modifying, which means halting, slowing, or reversing the progression of Parkinson's. Today, there's more than 70.
Wow.
So, excuse me. So in the last 7 years, there are now more than 70 clinical trials that are classified as disease modifying. So, I'm hopeful that just one of these, can produce some type of positive, actionable results in my lifetime, right? And we know these things take forever, but if one of these can produce actionable results in my lifetime, I think that would be wonderful. But really, the big focus area is in research around this protein called alpha-synuclein. And what they found is that alpha-synuclein is actually a protein that's suffocating the neurons and killing off the neurons that are producing dopamine in people with Parkinson's. So if we can somehow prevent the alpha-synuclein protein from suffocating these neurons, well, then you're able to halt progression, right? If these neurons are stopped, they're not dying anymore due to alpha-synuclein. But then now it's just a matter of, I think it's a completely different. It's going to be a multiple different studies that will come together before a cure can be said a cure, because not only do you have to stop the progression, slow or stop the progression, but now you have to reverse the damage that's already done, right? I think those are two very different paths that researchers have to take, and that seems to be the way that's going. People looking for regenerative properties are on one path, and people who are looking to stop or halt current progression is on a different path. But eventually, I think those two roads will collide, and then that's the day that we have a cure. Will that happen? Will that happen in my lifetime? I don't know, but I'm very, very hopeful, very, very optimistic that a disease modifying treatment would be available in my lifetime.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. I mean, obviously, we know exercise is probably the cure, not the cure, but the solution to pretty much probably all our problems, and especially when it has to do with, neural and the neuroplasticity of the brain, and obviously exercise can help stimulate new neurons, especially like people who have strokes, who have to, who completely lose part of their body, through exercise. Absolutely. And stuff, the neural pathways that can be developed and help. So it sounds like it's just the cure of the combination of just exercise like what you're doing, and perhaps this medication, if they can come up with something that stops this protein from suffocating, it sounds like it just has to come together. And who knows,
Yeah.
maybe probably around the corner. I'll pray
Well,
that it is.
and thank you. Yeah, and exercise really is the so far the only treatment proven to slow progression of Parkinson's. And it's exactly, you hit it right in the nose, right? It's that neuroplasticity. You're training your brain to use different parts of it to communicate to the rest of your body, right? And one of the things that I like about ninja training is that when you put yourself in what your brain might consider a life or death situation, or an emergency situation, it's really amazing what the body and the muscle memory can do, right? Sometimes just the urge or the instinct to survive, right? That in itself runs on a different wavelength of everything else in your brain. Where that comes from, well, I don't know, but I'm sure some scientists know. But where that comes from out of our own body, putting myself in those situations certainly helps with movement. And exercise is it's proven to slow progression. So, and really for people with Parkinson's, and like you mentioned, all kinds of neurological disorders, spinal cord injury or disorders. It's important because what we're doing is we're buying ourselves time, right? There's no cure right now, but if I can maintain a level of ability to move, I'm buying myself time so that when there is that disease modifying treatment, I'm not so far behind that it would take, it's like the point of no return. I'm trying to hold on to what I have, and when those treatments come, then I'm certainly going to be in a better position than someone who's given up and absolutely just not doing anything, right? Because again, you stop progression, but you still have to reverse it in some way, and that's a challenge.
Oh, 100%. All right, my last one for you, because I keep coming up with new things
of course.
to ask. So for someone, so if you were to, talk to your younger self when you got diagnosed, and even not necessarily yourself, but someone who might be in your position where they get diagnosed with something, could be Parkinson's, could be a whole range of other things. And what was the one thing you'd tell that person so that they perhaps don't have those 8 years, as you said, or just to help them with dealing with what's to come?
Yeah.
What's the one thing you'd tell that person?
Well, it really is how I'm able to build my care team around me is a huge key. And when I say that, it's not just, I'm not talking about doctors, or I kind of am, but I'm not just talking about doctors and things like that. It's really the people that I surround myself with, right? In the beginning, first 8 years, I knew nobody that was like me, nobody that looked like me, nobody that talked like me, act like me, had the same interests. So I didn't know how to deal with this disease because I was going at it alone. What I would suggest anybody facing adversity at any age is to find others that are living their situation. Learn from them, because there are others out there who may have developed some tricks, or have unlocked some secrets that they can share with you, right? The more knowledge that you can gain around your own community or your own circle of trust, so to speak, the better it is. Some of my best friends now, some of my best friends today have Parkinson's, and it's not because we have Parkinson's, but it's because we share information with each other. We've opened up to each other. We all think alike. We're the same age. We have the same interests, and really the exchange of information is incredible, and it really helps from even a support, like a support group perspective, right? You have to find the right group that matches exactly it is what you're looking for, what you're interested in, and that will help you with optimism. That will help you with keeping it with my isolation, which is huge, right? Because one of the things that I wanted to do was just hide and just climb up and just hide in a corner. So, but it improves the social ability, it improves knowledge, it improves your overall, just the overall mental mood. So that's what I would tell people who are facing adversities for the first time is really educate yourself and surround yourself with people who are like-minded.
Mm. Wow. Matt, this has been absolutely fascinating. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. And yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm sure you're very busy and coming on and yeah, joining me on this
Of course.
awesome podcast episode.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for having me. I mean, really is an honor, and for you to think of me and allowing me to share my story and my experiences. And just one last thing I'd like people to know is that I am an open book, right? Part of my role nowadays is to be an advocate for Parkinson's research. If anybody has any questions about anything Parkinson's related or movement related or anything like that, I'm an open book. I don't mind sharing. I mean, I told everybody I have constipation. I mean, so I'm an open book, so I'm happy to share if anybody has any questions.
Oh, absolutely. I'll definitely link everything that I can in the episode. And yeah, Jimmy, it's been a pleasure. I do hope I don't know if I'll get back for season 13, but I do hope to get back for season 14 if I'm able to. And I definitely will try and get back to Chicago. And yeah, I'd love to train with you.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, that'd be awesome. If you are in the Chicago area, let me know. My wife and I have always had plans to head down under. So if I'm out there, I'll look you up as well for sure.
Nah, man, you got to do it. You got to do it. I was gonna say best to probably come your winter time. I think that's when it's summer. So you'd have you could potentially have a very sunny Christmas.
Awesome. I love it.
All right, Jimmy, I'll let you go, buddy. Thank you so much, man. And yeah,
all right.
We'll be in touch.
All right. Take care.
See you, buddy.
See ya.